Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of They Said What, where we talk about the celebrity stories that we have covered this week. Again, we got Lisa and Mindy. You guys ready to talk about some celebrity gossip?
My favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. First, we got Kevin Hart. So, Kevin Hart was at the round table with Will Smith, and he opened up about his affair and how his affairs have affected his children. So, this is part of what he told Smith. His 16-year-old daughter, Heaven, has changed since she learned of his affair. He said that having a little girl in my life is tough, as without kids, you don't realize the impact your mistakes are making on them. And as a father, when kids get involved, it's a completely different feeling. It's a different opinion. It's a different emotion. He said his daughter's judgment has affected him more than others. When your child shows disappointment, shows emotion, shows I don't understand why, and now you got to have those conversations, and then that's when your head drops for the first time. So I think this kind of goes back to the question we did earlier today, whereas like I think when you get into these affairs, you're kind of thinking of your obviously you're thinking of yourself. It's kind of a selfish thing to do, but when you have kids, I think before you take that step into infidelity, that isn't often doesn't often register in your mind. Like, how would the kids even know about this? Like, why would it even affect them? But clearly it does, especially in Hart's situation where the world was talking about his affairs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to me I mean, it just shows the kind of mindset I think that some people have. I tell my children this and I try to get it in their heads that choices you make can impact other people. And that's why you need to be careful about choices you make. And I get it. People make mistakes. But his daughter is an informative time in her life and probably was when news of these things broke. It's really difficult. It's really difficult. And I mean, I don't fault him for being a person with flaws and making mistakes. It sounds like he's trying to do better because he's acknowledging it, I would hope. That's just the feeling I get. Maybe he isn't trying to do better, which whatever, his life. But it is hard. It's hard to think of how that would affect a child of yours in unintended ways, because it's not like you go into it wanting something for yourself, but then like there's just this tidal wave that goes out around you and affects other people too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's really important for him to talk about this too, because
Yeah.
I'm sure when it hit headlines that he had these affairs, like that's not an easy thing to bring up, especially in a
Yeah.
thing like this. But it's so important for him to talk about, like, okay, this didn't just affect me and my wife and the other party; it affected my children, and in a major.
Yeah.
Like the way he was talking about this, it sounded like for a while there, it completely changed his relationship with his 16-year-old daughter, and now he's working to get it back. But I think a lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah. Well, good on him for trying to work on it. Because it'd be so hard being a celebrity and make a big mistake and then have it just blown up everywhere.
So I had to earn the forgiveness of my son more than anybody for that situation because it started with me. And and I definitely made some decisions that were, that blew up the family, for lack of a better term. We stayed together for a long time despite all of it and changed the rules of the relationship. But at the end of the day, I had a lot of forgiveness I needed to ask of my children for having hurt them. And you know, the only outcome was for me to change my behavior, right? Because they're the most important, well, like they're the most important, right? And so, there's a lot of work that I had to do to gain their trust again and um, to show that they were the priority for me, right? And it was their issues with me were well deserved, right? And it's like part of the work you've got to do to get back in the game and to rebuild those relationships. So
Yeah.
I mean, I really agree with Kevin Hart. He did the right thing. He's owning it, and she'll come around, right?
Yeah.
But nobody should expect things not to change, especially as your kids, when your kids get to a certain age and they understand what you did, you know, you've made your bed and now you got to go lie in it.
Yeah.
But I
And
mean, something good can come out of this, as you were describing that, because a lot of times when you're in any sort of a relationship, whether it's parent child, growth happens in uncomfortable, bad situations. And there could be good things that grow out of it if you focus in and dig into your child and, repair and strengthen that relationship. So I think that that's worth being said too. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing that one of the good things that come out of it is this concept of, hey, my parents are human, they're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And while it changes how they see you, it often takes you off that pedestal that you should have never been on in the first place.
Yeah. It also teaches them forgiveness as well, right?
Yeah.
If you put in the work,
And what it looks like.
if you put in the work,
Mhm.
everybody makes mistakes. And there are going to be days where you make big ones and you're going to have to do a lot to get back to where you were. But you can grow from that and you can even eventually have a better relationship if you do it the right way.
Yeah.
All right, guys, don't forget to send in your anonymous questions. Thanks.